And we're live. It's Whiskey Watches Wheels, and I am the phenomenal Matt Green. Along with my boys, we're going to give you a phenomenal episode tonight with our special guest. Gentlemen, introduce yourselves.
Casey.
I'm James.
Kevin.
Is this where I jump in?
Yeah, jump in, buddy.
Oh, man. It's like, I didn't know. I didn't know if it was like a whole, like, you know, you're going to introduce me. But hey, I'm Kenny. I'm your guest today. Yeah.
You are your guest today. So, see, I told you we're informal, man. We're not professionals over here. This is only like our 71st episode, so we're doing good.
It takes you about 100 to get the groove of things. So
exactly. We've been doing this a hot minute, but that's about it. So that's what's going on, and so I guess we can start off like our normal. It's been 2 weeks for me. I haven't been here the last 2 weeks. Casey and Kevin did a great episode last week on their Bourbon Trail trip, and then we're going to go through now. Maybe just do our normal wristwatch check, and then we can just jump into the normal stuff and kind of willy nilly whatever's going on. So
some people have bad internet, so we just come popping in. This usually doesn't happen. So today I'm wearing a Breitling. Normally I would have it on a thing, but I'm in a new studio today because I'm building a new one. So it's just a Breitling Explorer Endurance. And what are you wearing, Matt?
So today I am wearing my wonderful little Hamilton King khaki. Champagne dial, automatic movement, simple, but does the job.
James?
I have a Seiko, the SNE 498.
Ooh, black and gold.
Black and gold. Yeah, black t-shirt, black watch.
Is that tuna?
Yes.
Is that tuna?
Tuna Prospects Solar Tuna. So
I'm wearing 007 today because I was problem solving. I was telling Kevin you were bouncing out, trying to problem solve some shit on the car that I can't figure out. So I felt like I was 007 trying to figure shit out.
The 911 is not cooperating.
Yeah, it's not.
And Kenny, what are you wearing today?
Kenny, what are you rocking, buddy?
Yeah. I'm actually wearing something that Casey had noticed when he visited our facility a couple weeks ago. I have myself a vintage 1967 Omega, and it's got quite a story to it, but I'll save it for the show whenever you're ready.
Fantastic.
Go for it now.
Go for it. Yeah, we're ready.
Go for it? Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
go for it.
So, everybody that's not able to see it on video, so it is, it's vintage, so it has a small dial to it and everything like that. But it's a real special one because you can't see it. You guys can't see it. But one thing that actually says in here, and maybe after the show I'll send a picture to you. Actually, on the face it says Mr. Bourbon right on there, and it has an ND that is circled underneath. And so after I did a whole lot of digging trying to understand, where did this watch come from, and I learned that National Distillers. It was a very well-known distillery here in Louisville at the time, another casualty of times of Prohibition, and ended up getting swallowed up by Beam and stuff like that. However, the top sales rep of the year was named Mr. Bourbon. And so in 1967, this watch was given to him. And I was able to acquire it through I guess you could call it a notification that I always have set up on everythingbutthehouse.com. Yeah, the flea market of the internet there. And so anything the word bourbon comes up, I immediately look at it, and I saw that watch and I go, damn it, I have to have it. And I grossly overpaid for it, which was fine. It was not in a working condition, but able to take it to a local person here in Louisville and able to get it back in working condition. So yeah, this vintage Omega is something that I find is really special to me.
That's awesome, man.
34 millimeter?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty small. It might be less than 34.
Wow.
And Casey, so tell our listeners who Kenny is and how you know him and how we met. And
all right. So Kenny, I came across Kenny via the podcast world a couple years ago. I was driving down the road, which I'm doing all the fucking time, and looking for a new podcast, and come upon Bourbon. I'm literally searching like weird stuff, come up with Bourbon. Bourbon Pursuit. This sounds interesting. So this is probably right after COVID, or maybe, so we're talking 21, 22, somewhere in there. And I'm searching, I've come upon it, and I'm like, holy shit, this is something I can listen to, because it's totally off of my like norm, right? Because I'm usually listening to cars or like Joe Rogan or like murder mystery. I listen to a lot of those type things, Serial and the like. So I started listening and was like, this is really cool. So I got diving deep, went back and listened to like all the old episodes, trying to get caught up, whatever. And then fast forward, it took me quite a while, but then I discovered you all were doing bourbon picks, right? Doing, what do you all call them, episodes?
Yeah, those are. Oh, well, we can talk to it, but yeah, we were doing our first instantiation of our private label program.
Right.
Don't worry, we're going to give Kenny plenty of time to talk, Casey. This intro.
You get a podcast around here, man. That's all I know how to do is talk.
So I learned about Sealbox and learn about that I can actually buy it, which is a benefit when you start getting into something. So I picked up episode, I think it was like 33. Which was a rye, which I'm devastated that I don't have anymore. It was the best rye of my life. It made me fall in love with rye. But then that also kind of like put me more into the bourbon pursuit world, listening, digging deeper. So then we end up going to Kentucky on Bourbon Trail trip, set up with Kenny. And I'm like, hey, Ken, we are going to drive some cars in. And I think it'd be really fun. I've listened to the podcast. It seems that you have some interest in like watches and cars, but Ryan doesn't seem to let him talk about any of the other, interest in life. He's like strictly focused on, I'm blending and I got to do this. And so I'm like, hey, we're going to come by with cars. And so he's like, sure, stop in. Well, we end up, of course, driving the Cayennes so that we can be safe and allow our wives to drive us around rather than us driving around. And anyway, we did the tour, which we've talked about, and I'm sure we'll hit on again. And now he's here. So Kenny of Bourbon Pursuit and Pursuit Spirits.
Welcome.
Thank you, Casey. I appreciate it.
That's probably a really poor introduction, but that's what you get.
Hey, I'm just glad you're one of my COVID babies that found me during that time. And, you've been able to kind of follow along with our journey as well. We've done a lot in the past couple of years.
And you missed out too. Like we had an episode me and Casey did, and I talked about your bourbon tasting, and we still talk about it, how it was the coolest one. We went on about 20 minutes about like the group and how like everybody, you've done all these before, and normally most people like do it. You don't talk to anybody, and I know you weren't present, you came and you're a busy guy, but we were like, everybody was cracking jokes, and we were like, and it's not because it was just the atmosphere. I mean, we were sweating, but
it's a hot warehouse. I'm here right now. Yeah,
you didn't realize it, but you know what? We were having such a good time. Even my wife, we look over and she's cracking jokes with all these guys because it was my wife and Casey's wife, and we're just looking and we're like, "This is the best." And I don't know if you guys are going to have that same style like at your new facility, but best. We did 13, Casey, that 13, day or that trip. That weekend, 13 tours, best one ever. Never talked to anybody at any of those, and on this one we were talking, people were saying, man, congratulations, because it was my 25-year anniversary that we did this for, and best ever. Like, and I've been a lot, Casey's been a lot, and we just kept on talking about it. So like, kudos to you, hands down to you guys. And we told everybody, if you ever do a bourbon tasting, you got to go to this place because it was the coolest.
Well, I really appreciate that. Yeah,
I was envious because when I was editing the episode as the non-bourbon drinker guy, but I like experiences. So I'm like, I want to be there. I want to be doing this stuff, man. This is freaking awesome. It's just the experience of it. So
yeah, it's one of those things that, kind of to give Casey a little bit more background here, or try to say, give more background on what Casey had said. We had started this barrel picking program as a part of Bourbon Pursuit a long time ago. You guys are 70 episodes in. Like I said, we're I think up to like almost 850 now for Bourbon Pursuit. So when I said it takes you your first 100 to kind of get the wheels going, it kind of does sometimes. We always tell people, are like, don't even listen to the first 100. I'd say go ahead and skip after that one. But as a part of this, and I'm sure you are realizing this, is that even though you create content, it doesn't mean money's coming in the door. And we do it because it's passion, it's fun, it's a good outlet for us. But over time, it did start to wean on us because the time that you're taking to do logistics and bring in guests and promote and edit and all, just the vicious cycle of what it is to create a podcast. We just said, we've got to figure out some way to monetize this thing. And we had the bright idea of starting a barrel picking program where we would invite all of our listeners or a subset of listeners on who are supporting us on Patreon to come and come to barrel picks with us. And so we would travel all across Kentucky, going to Four Roses and Jim Beam and Heaven Hill. I mean, you name it, Wild Turkey. And we would go and we'd select barrels, and we would, through another retailer, they would sell them to our community. And over time, we did probably 300 plus barrel picks. And wow. This is really where what you all experience is what we modeled it after. Going on a barrel pick is something that is typically reserved for, we would call them like whiskey elite, whether they are barrel picking groups, people that actually literally get together, buy barrels of whiskey because they have the fiduciary capabilities of being able to do that, or you're a liquor store and you go and you buy it for your patrons. This is something that we wanted to model across, of actually giving you that barrel pick experience, and then being able to and it's truly what you all experience, is actually sitting at a table, tasting things, going back and forth with some people you probably just met, and kind of figure out, well, which one do you like? Why do you like that one? I kind of like this one. I didn't think I was a rye person. Now I kind of really a big fan of rye. And so and whiskey is really this social lubricant at the end of the day, where it just easily kind of just opens you up to kind of start talking about all kinds of different things. And then from there, you got to experience actually thieving out of the barrel and filling a bottle and taking it home, which is kind of like our second step of that process, where, we want to give you something to take home that is truly a unique one-off that you can't do anywhere else on the Bourbon Trail. And so it's been something that has been our marquee experience that we're continually building on. And as you kind of foreshadowed already, yes, we are taking it to our new facility on Whiskey Row, which we always say is a good soft 30 days away.
Yeah, we actually experienced, Kevin, your air is very loud right now, but experienced that kind of epiphany of during the tasting and really the whole weekend. But both Kevin and his wife were adamant that they did not like ryes. They wouldn't touch ryes. And I'm over here champion ryes. Like, I've got the Rye Rita tonight. But your experience allowed people to have, 6 barrels to taste from and have a different kind of flavor profile throughout. And we found that a lot of people were enjoying the ryes. And I know that on the podcast, Ryan raves about the ryes over and over again, but the rye is unbelievable. And I think that your experience helps people maybe branch out and take the chance on tasting a couple of different ryes to see really what it's about.
Break the seal.
Yeah, pretty much. It's one of those things that people think they don't like rye whiskey until they try it. And the shitty part about actually having the business is that it's probably our best product that sells the worst, just because of the category and what's it is. Yeah.
Before we go too much further, I thought we'd give Kenny an opportunity to talk about other stuff other than bourbon.
Yeah.
You opened with your watch, but are you a watch guy? Do you have a collection of watches? Is it something you've always been into, or is it kind of new once you kind of found something on, bourbon related?
Yeah, I've only got one other kind of high-end luxury watch. I've got a few other kind of small ones with automatic movements. But sort of my coming of age tale with it was when I got my first, I'd say, real big boy promotion in my corporate career. I have a tech background. I've worked in software development, networking, storage, servers, virtualization, containers. I've done all that for my entirety of my tech career. And when I was working for like an actual end user, your pay is kind of like whatever it is. But when I got my first job moving to the vendor side, that's kind of where, you work for your Dell, your Cisco's, your NVIDIA, those kind of places. It's a pretty healthy pay bump. And I was kind of coming into it fresh as what we called it was like a V specialist, V architect for a company that was called VCE. It was a joint venture between VMware, Cisco, and EMC at the time. And I go into this and I'm just kind of learning some of the technology and something like that. But I go out to dinner one night and I sit there and I'm talking to my manager. He's got a Panerai on his wrist, and we start kind of talking about it because I had never really been introduced to that world. My parents had never been into it. None of my friends were into it. And when he kind of started talking to me about it and saying, I remember this stuck in my head very early on. He goes, yeah, $5,000 is kind of like an entry level watch. And I go, oh, okay. And when he said that, I was not only kind of like, you had a little shock factor. I'm sure most people, when they get into it, they do, but that's what makes you want to dive deeper. And I went so far down of learning about movements and trying to figure out like, well, what makes this one special versus this? What brands stick out to me and which ones do I like? And so when we had, that first conversation, and I probably spent 6 to 8 months just looking for watches, researching, figure out which one do I want, which one is kind of in my first sort of like, congratulations, Kenny, like welcome to the real world. Like this is your first big boy gift to yourself. So I ended up buying myself a Mont Blanc Time Walker. For me, I bought that because I've always had this. It was probably not the best investment at the time because I always look back and I was just like, I don't want a Rolex because everybody else has a Rolex. I want something different. I want something that nobody else has. And I was looking at a few different brands, and the Mont Blanc, you can say whatever it is, but it's from the Richemont group. But it has some good cachet to it. But I loved just the dial. I loved how it had this timeless look to it. It didn't look like it was I contemporary, right? I think that's the way I kind of pictured it. And I was just like, it really kind of spoke to me. So that was my first big purchase, was actually getting the Mont Blanc Time Walker. Yeah, there you go. It's right there on the screen. And this was one that I was like, oh, wow. I really loved it. Bought it fresh, brand new, straight from Mont Blanc. And then, from there, I just kind of, that's been my kind of go-to. Like that's the one I wear out when I still feel like being special and whatnot. Now it's a little bit of a different scenario. Now I window shop every time I'm in New York and Chicago and LA and stuff like that, or in Vegas, and I'm walking around going, oh damn, it'd be really cool to get another one of these. But we're about we're about 9 million in debt on the bourbon business right now. So it's like, let's crawl ourselves out of that hole. And I always told Ryan, because as Casey said, Ryan's my business partner. He is practical as practical can be. He drives a Ford truck. He'd rather buy all of his clothes at Old Navy. Like he doesn't care, no frills, doesn't get the watch game. He doesn't want fancy cars or anything like that. And
but he'll spend a lot of money. He'll spend a lot of money on a bourbon pick, right? Or a barrel.
Actually, he always said he was just like, I won't bat an eye at a $200 steak, but I was like $50 for a t-shirt. That's where I crossed the line. So, he'll pay for different kinds of things. But I told him, I said, if this whole thing works out and, we come out of this whole bourbon thing on the, pretty squeaky clean on the other side, like I'm going to buy you a real nice watch. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like my gift to him when that day comes, so he can kind of see what we've all see.
Well, that's why you're our guest.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Will you put Mr. Bourbon on it?
That's a good question. I to try to get something custom like this again. I don't know who else can. I mean, I'll push it over to you. Like, who else does custom dials like this anymore?
The guy at the end of the screen for me, Matt. Matt does custom watches.
Well, I just started building custom watches, but yeah,
very awesome.
So there you go.
I'm like 9 watches in, so that's about it. So
yeah, but Rolex will do it.
Sure, they will.
Yeah,
you can have lots of things monogrammed or engraved. So.
Yeah, at the corporate level, for your time served, so to speak, I've seen many of them.
Yep. The cool thing about your story, Kenny, was that, the Mont Blanc is really a watch guy's watch. Like, if you know kind of thing. A lot of people would see that and not even know what it is, but a watch guy's been like, oh, I see what you're doing there. That's the cool thing.
Well, what else during that research were you drawn to before you pulled the trigger on the Mont Blanc?
There's a few of them. The brand names will come to me, but I want to touch a story that Matt just said right there. Is that one of the things that became very noticeable to me right away, because this is at the time when I was traveling all the time and I was on planes. I was going in and out of Delta and all the time, and I couldn't help but look at people's wrists. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, it's like, oh, you can see, well, that's just a shiny piece of $200 whatever they got at Kohl's, right?
Exactly.
Or you can look at that and be like, holy shit, that guy's got 15 grand on his wrist and he's not doing anything, right? And that was like one of the kind of cool things that you just start looking and you kind of just start noticing those brands and everything like that. So yeah. Other brands, like another one that I kind of like have my eye on is IWC Portuguese. I think that's just, again, I just have this knack of finding, like, I love just classic looking things that just sort of have this contemporary look to it. And those are one of the ones that I just love. You know, it's longer that I've gotten into this, and, you know, that's why I said kind of like, was it the right move back then? Because those particular watches don't hold their value as well as, say, a Rolex does. And I'm kind of like, should I bought a Rolex back then? I don't know. I bought whatever was kind of cool for me at the time. But in regards of holding a value, it doesn't hold its value near as well as
the key is that you bought it for yourself. You didn't buy it for somebody else, right? So you liked it. So, you know, we've all gone down this path where we're buying Seikos. And why are we buying Seikos? Because the bang for the buck is fantastic, right? It's not a Rolex, but you're getting a really good movement and a good value. So
that's totally different than anything else on the market currently. You're wearing a 50-year-old timepiece that has been somewhere in the world for the last 50 years. It's had some sort of experience that now you are kind of continuing on. And that's why we all really like vintage pieces for that reason, but for the patina and kind of the story behind it. But then you ought to check out Watch Charts. You know that site?
I have no. This is where you all go. Like, I'll tell you all.
Yeah.
Like, you ever heard of bottlebluebook.com? Yeah,
I do.
But watch charts, you can find any watch you want, but it's reselling. It's second market. So if you find that IWC that you like, you can find it used and it's a third of the price. And, you know, nobody knows, or nobody really even cares. It's you that wants the story. And when you find something that's unique and exactly what you want that you didn't pay as much for, very happy.
Kenny's like, I thought I was going to be talking about bourbon on the podcast.
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there.
No, it's okay.
We're going to get there.
Well,
I'm sure everybody has you on guest. They're like, okay, right? Bourbon,
yeah, exactly.
It's going to be like different. Like, you know, a lot of our people, hey, Porsche, watches, bourbon, it's like everything, you know.
We cover a big topic, broad base.
So,
yeah.
And back to that subject too, like James, I mean, I was a Rolex guy, and James is the one who I looked at his watch, just like you said, Kenny, you look at his watches, and I said, what is that? And he's like, he kind of snubbed Rolex, James did. But when I asked him, I was like, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's a 1960. I'm like, wait a second, just like your watch, Kenny. And I was like, 1960? Tell me about this stuff. I mean, and they all have names, just like a Rolex, you know, they have like Bruce Lee. It's really cool because people will come up to you. I think I get more compliments on Seiko watch, and when somebody comes to me,
absolutely,
and I'm like, oh, this guy's a real watch aficionado.
Nerd,
yeah. They're not like everybody knows the Rolex. Right? It's just wow, right? Like you said, Penny, you were like, oh yeah, you look at. We all know the names, but when someone comes up to me and goes, is that a XK blah blah 007 or is that a
is that an NH35?
Yeah, like people were like, I'm like, oh my, and my wife looks at me like, oh my god.
Here we go.
Yeah,
here we go.
It's like, here goes the next 10 minutes.
Yes, about Seiko of all things. So it's awesome that you bought the watch and that's how we are. We buy watches because, I mean.
Well, Matt, I think, has the best name for it that we've talked about, but milestone watches, right?
Yeah.
Like anything significant, you tend to market with a timepiece.
Yeah. So all of it, just so you know, Kenny, so all of my wedding anniversaries, my wife and I just had our 25th several years ago. We're working on our 30th now. So all the big milestones in my life, you know, promotions, I always buy a really nice watch. I have Tag Heuers, I have Hamiltons, I have Omega Speedmaster. Yeah. So you're nice watches. But then I have over 60 watches now, and I fill my collection with a lot of just, you know, cool stuff. But I have stuff from, you know, Russia. I have, you know, Seikos. I have, Citizens and Orients and stuff that are all automatics and cool stuff, but not something that breaks the bank and you can, you know, fill in the gaps with really neat stuff that honestly, I get more looks on the new line of Seikos that have the bright yellows and oranges and reds than I do a lot of other stuff. You know, a $300 watch, I get people asking me about, you know, and my Speedy that was, you know, $8,000, they don't even notice. So it's just the way it is. But yeah.
These two guys over here are like, wow.
Yeah, exactly. And we all like cars.
But I think your watch purchase kind of leads to something where that watch is kind of a niche market, kind of very narrow focused watch. Is that narrow focus something that you have kind of, does your life tend to follow those sort of niche market hobbies? Because if we're talking watches, specifically automatics in today's world, right, there's not very many people that actually wear a real watch, let alone a vintage watch. Then, you know, we'll talk cars here in a second, but your podcast is kind of very niche. Your bourbon ends up being very niche, right? Trying to start, or not trying to start, but starting a bourbon from a podcast. Is that kind of like a theme that you've seen across kind of your life?
Yeah, and that kind of goes back into the purchase of the Mont Blanc as well, is that I always try to stay away from mass market, right? I can tell you even a technology thing. Let's think, you know, before the iPhone was invented and everybody's kind of walking around, they got their Motorola Razors and they're flipping them out.
StarTAC, baby.
Yeah.
I was rocking Windows Mobile OS.
Yes, I had that.
Yeah, because I saw it and I was like, this is great, because people are losing their phones all the time and they get on Facebook and go, I lost my phone again. Send me a message so I can put your number. And I was like, oh, I can just connect a USB cable and I can back up everything to my computer. Like, this is the wave of the future. Like, this is so great. And I can hack it and do all this other kind of stuff. So I was, you know, one of 1,000 at UK that were doing that at the time. I've always just kind of had this idea of like, I always want to try to, and I don't know, my wife might call it peacocking, but I always try to just be a little bit different with it. Even when it, you know, we haven't really touched on cars, but you know, my first, I actually say my first car, but my first purchase, I'm a big boy job out of college, getting something off of eBay, bought a Mercedes modified C230, staggered wheels, 19-inch,
nice
body kit, the whole thing, the exhaust, you know, delivery cam. I mean, you name it. Like, it had a bunch of mods in it, and because I was just like, I want something that is just, people look at it and they're like, oh, that's good. It didn't have crazy colors or anything like that. It was like classy, but yet affordable, right? And so you're
personalized, right?
Yeah, it's personalized, right? But it wasn't to the point where, you know, I'm slapping, you know, aftermarket parts on the hood or something like that. Like, it wasn't anything like that. It just looked really well done. Plus, it was actually one of the only times it was a 6-speed manual, right?
Oh,
so you didn't really see those.
That is rare. Very rare.
I grew up. My first car was actually a Nissan 200 SX. So 5-speed manual. Yeah. It was my aunt's car, and man, I wrecked that damn thing. But I had a good time doing it. So it had turbo engine and everything like that on it.
Nice.
But, you know, I had that car, and that was one of the things, like, it really was one of the things that I truly loved. I babied it to the point where I had like 3 different sets of rims on it, because, you know, you had your winter tires, you had your summer wheels, you had all that kind of crap. And as of like a couple of years ago, I was like, all right, I'm tired of like clutching the wheel every single time I hit a speed bump. So I'm just going to go get the SUV for a few years, and then hopefully this whole bourbon thing will turn around and I can get back myself into something sporty again.
This guy talking about the car. Like,
yeah,
this is,
he's excited.
It actually pains me to think like that I sold it, you know, so long ago, and I know it's just like I cherish that damn thing so much. Every weekend, not every weekend, but every couple weeks, I'd be out there, you know, doing my own washing it and everything like that. Actually, I would take it to like an automatic wash, but I bring towels with me to make sure that I could get all of the brake dust off of it and everything like that.
We would destroy the paint with the automatic car wash, but then dry it off.
yeah. I was like, I'll take the easy way out.
Of course.
And that's what I even knew, because going over those damn speed bumps, you know, I was 2 inches off the ground with this body kit on it. And so I'd always bust the under lip of it, and it would start webbing and everything like that. So I the first time I had a problem with it, I took it to the dealership, and they got it all back, and I probably overpaid for it, whatever it is. And the second time it happened, I called the dealership. The guy was like, "Do you just want me to give you the number of where we take this stuff?" I was like, "Yeah." And so I ended up finding a place here in Louisville where they take all the Mercedes that need body work like that, and they do all the body work and painting and everything like that. So it got a fraction of the cost from what I was paying there.
That's awesome.
So you're driving around a mom mobile now, but we obviously need to get you off of that.
Okay, it's a GLE 400, right? So
right.
it's a random AMG, at least interior, right? So I was like, I got to find something a little bit personalized.
Nice.
Yeah, that was one thing I thought was funny. One of the conversations we had was about the cars, and I think we're about the same age. And you were kind of opining about, man, I gotta look into a 911. I've always liked them, lusted after, whatever. I'm not getting any younger, and I think you've at least got 4 really bad influences here this evening that are going to push you very hard to take the plunge.
Yeah, that's been one of those things too. It's like, you get into it, you gotta get your first taste of a sporty car, and then you're going like, well, might as well just go all the way and get the, it's like
Absolutely.
GT3.
Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and do it, right? Like I'll have it for a few years, and then after that, and I only say that because I ended up back to my tech days, ended up working with 2 guys that were based out of the Netherlands, and they were huge Porsche guys, and each of them, I think one of them had a Turbo S, the other had a GT3. And they loved it. They raved about it all the time, and it made me super jealous because they share pictures with it on our internal communications, and I was just like, oh man, I want to get myself behind one of those too.
Yeah, for me, it's still the only car that really gets me excited is that Testarossa can come by, right? The Ferraris, the Lambos, all of that stuff, and it doesn't do anything for me any longer. But any model of a 911 that I see, I'm looking and I'm lusting after it. So,
well, James is into some weird stuff, trying to get excited about anything, and it's just a 911 that gets him to pop a chub.
Yep.
Yeah. 911 with a little bit of asphyxiation, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Kevin is the car guy.
Yeah.
And, I've looked at Ferraris, I've looked at Skylines, and I've looked at NSX, and I've had tons of cars. But this is the Porsche is the only car that I can literally go to the track, drive it to the track, beat on it, and drive it 400 miles home.
Yeah.
No problem. And I think that's how we actually formed the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We met at a rally, and we drove the piss out of our cars, and me and Matt drove to Florida. I mean, I drove to Tampa, we drove to Orlando, and it just snowballed. So I looked at every other car, and I talked to a guy. His father owned the biggest dealership that we have here, Stingray Chevrolet, and I had a car in McLaren as well. Like, I have a car, all these cars. Last year, like horse, dinner, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy is that, Kevin and I, we have air-cooled 911. So we're literally beating these 40-plus-year-old cars to death. So we go to a rally. I go to a rally in Florida. I drive the car 10 hours, then drive it all weekend, and then drive the 10 hours back without a hitch.
That's great.
Yeah.
And, one other thing you mentioned, Kevin, I kind of forgot because you talked about Skylines and NSX, and I don't know if anybody's ever come on here and kind of talked about like maybe why else they got into it, but the original PlayStation with Gran Turismo.
Yes.
Was one of my,
yes.
100%.
That was actually kind of like my first introduction into the hobby of like modding and adding, turbo stage 4 and like all this other kind of stuff. And like that was kind of like, and even today, I'll tell my daughter, and she'll be like, "You're a terrible driver." And I was like, "No, I was really good at Gran Turismo." And she'll be like, "What are you talking about?"
Yep.
So I always use that as like my baseline when I'm driving with somebody. Like, "Nah, I was great at Gran Turismo."
Dude, me and my buddies would have the PlayStation. We've been doing Gran Turismo, and we always had the rule: no Skylines and no 3000 GTs, because both those cars would just destroy. So that was the rule. Can't use them.
Yeah. NSXs, man, they were just like waving all over the road. You're like, that was the point where like it's really cool, but I just remember Gran Turismo. Just it's like just having PTSD from it. So I was like, I don't even want one in real life.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm laughing because I'm on my third drink, but I'm just thinking Kenny's gonna go to his wife and go, so what'd you talk? So I talked about watches. And I talked about PlayStation.
Yeah.
I'm talking about cars and Porsches. Oh, hey, you didn't talk about your brand? No.
We'll get there. This is how our episodes usually go, though. We start rambling. We start rambling, and next thing you know, we're an hour and 10 minutes in, and we're like, all right, well, okay.
So do you have anything other than kind of the what do you call it, the Nissan and the GLE now? Have you had anything kind of in between that has been exciting? And are you still actively lusting after kind of what I'll call a supercar or a fun car? Let's call it a fun car.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I've only had 4 cars in my life. So I had my Nissan 200 SX. I know, I've only had 4. That's it. Right.
Wow.
So I've had. If I buy my wife's car, does that count? So 5, right? So Nissan 200 SX was my first one, high school car. Ended up getting my dad's Infinity at one point, but it wasn't a very cool one. Then after that, that's when I got my modified C230, and then now I got my GLE 400. Then my wife, she's only owned 2 cars in her life, and both of them are 4Runners. She is a 4Runner girl.
I was hoping you were going to say an Altima.
No, she's a 4Runner girl. That's the only car that she will ever drive.
Yeah, nice. She looks classier than an Altima, but 4Runner, you can't go wrong with 4Runner. I mean, holy shit.
No, that thing's a tank, and it's fantastic. There's barely any maintenance that needs on it, but it's like I said, right now it's a lot of just window shopping, seeing kind of cool cars drive by, and go, one of these days I'll get there. But we just got to make some more money on the bourbon side first.
You're keeping your car. I gotta buy all these barrels of whiskey here.
Oh yeah. That's where all the money's in right now.
Let's talk about that. How about that?
Yeah. Let's talk about some bourbon, because I want to learn some stuff because I know nothing about it. I've learned a lot through these guys here. I've learned a lot. I've gone to whiskey tastings. They got much enjoyment out of watching me about hurl over the damn stuff. They did
I was going to Nashville, and these guys came down to Nashville to surprise me for my 40th?
Yeah.
40th birthday. And so, of course, we got to do some bourbon. So we went to Nashville Barrel Company. And, their product is what it is. But it's fun to do the tasting as a group, especially. And Matt over here, not a fan. They're
like, do you taste the notes? I'm like, I taste ethanol. That's all I taste. Am I putting this in my car? I don't get it, man. And then they gave us some sort of maple something or other. Like, oh, this is our special maple something. I'm like, oh my god, what is this shit?
Yeah, you said it out loud too.
I did say it out loud.
There was only two workers.
Yeah,
there, so
I'm like, all right, can someone give me I don't know, you got any Angry Orchard back there or something? I don't know, man.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about the market overall. And I've said on here several times, in which admittedly I get a lot of my bourbon knowledge from y'all. But that the even locally, I'm noticing that the amount of bourbon on the shelf, the amount of different brands that over the last 4 or 5 years that weren't on the shelf or unavailable are now back on the shelf and available for purchase. So you all are saying, I think that the kind of the bourbon boom is kind of starting to kind of close down. What do you feel about that overall?
Yeah, to kind of preface it, I would say that you're probably living in the golden age of whiskey, in the golden age of bourbon right now. As a consumer, you have access to more choices than you have ever had in your entire life. If we go back 15 years ago, you probably had 10 choices on the shelf. You had Beam, you had Makers, you had Knob Creek, you had some stuff from Buffalo Trace, all the big players, and that's it. Right? And it was just core products. You had a few different limited releases, but beyond there, that's all you had. There has been a renaissance, that you could say, that's come out of the bourbon game in the past 10 years and probably the last 5 years, where you've seen a bunch of brands come up, and not everybody, and by the way, I hope I'm not burst anybody's bubble, but not everybody owns a distillery, so you can buy product and you can put it in a bottle. Same thing. Like
I've done some teaching on that on here about MGP.
Oh, this whole brokered market stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's this whole middle layer that people had not really realized before that existed. But yes, it's actually not that hard to come out with your own whiskey. It's much harder to just sell it, but you can make your own whiskey. Like that's the easy part, and make your own brand. But yeah, so you've kind of seen something in the past, I would say, a little bit past post COVID, where I mean, we all sat at home. Everybody was drinking during COVID. Nobody was ready for it. Everything went to the goddamn moon and back, where people said, let's dump tens of millions of dollars into building out facilities. This train is gonna start going, and it's gonna go at a much faster pace, because if the United States is drinking this much, if we could get 1 out of every 10 Scotch drinkers to switch over to bourbon, I mean, you deplete every single barrel that's sitting in Kentucky, right? I mean, that's how
the 9
that's how
million
big
barrels
Scotch is,
or
but
something.
it's like that's how much that the market could turn if it keeps going in this direction. However, I think that what people didn't take into account was your pantry buying during this time when people were getting into it. You're getting into the hobby. I mean, Casey, how many bourbon bottles do you own now?
300 probably.
Okay, right. So you're one of us.
Yeah.
So when this happens and the bug bites you, you go and you just go crazy and you start buying bottles and you start figuring things out, and then you reach a point and going, do I have enough? Yeah. Or is my wife mad yet? Have I mortgaged the house? And so you kind of have this pullback mentality, especially from the whiskey geek, the whiskey consumer. Now you couple that with other things that are happening regards to legalized cannabis coming out across many different states. You've got younger generations that are kind of choosing that over drinking or sober lifestyle, whatever it is. Ryan always says they just haven't had kids yet, so they'll find it eventually. But you couple all that together. Now you sort of, I wouldn't call it deflating. It's just the market catching back up to where it was. Seeing stuff back on the shelf. That's kind of like the way it should be. Liquor brands shouldn't have 10 to 15% growth over a year. Like 1 to 3% is usually pretty healthy when you're talking in the liquor industry, because that means that it is a continuation of what's there. And as you all know, like whiskey just can't turn and burn overnight, right? This takes years to develop.
Is that a historical notion though? Because you look at these young brands, you're one of them, where you have to have double-digit growth each year, right? Like you look at some of these other kind of up-and-coming NDPs and whatnot, like they need to have that growth. So are we going to see kind of that percentage change a little bit, or do you think that still the average is going to be that 1 to 3%?
So we're moving in a much more aggressive pace, but that's because like going into next year, everything that we had done with contract distillation versus buying aged product starts coming of age. And so when we had started Pursuit Spirits, we bought enough whiskey we thought we needed to kind of cover this band-aid of 3 to 4 years until our whiskey that we had put down at all of our different facilities would be ready. Now, that means that we are going to have to double, almost triple our output next year of going into different markets. But that's the good thing, is that we're so small, we're kind of insulated. We're not trying to be Jack Daniels. We're not trying to be on every corner market. We're not going to be in every single store. We have a huge uphill battle in front of us of just consumer education. Who is Pursuit? Why would I buy this? Why would I spend $50 on this when I know I've had Buffalo Trace for $28.99 and it's pretty good? So why would I make the jump? So us to be able to sell that bottle, like, yeah. Well, I'm just saying, for us to sell that bottle, it is a bigger leap to do something like that. So we have the good thing with us though is that we're only in 12 markets currently. That means we have the rest of the world to still go. So we have a lot of. So don't hold me to it. I'm trying to go by memory. We're in Colorado, Missouri, Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Maryland, Delaware, DC, New Mexico, not Florida, not California, not New York. So we're not in those major markets just yet. We are in Texas,
Then
correct? Yeah.
how are
And
you
then
doing
we'll
that?
make it till Wisconsin eventually too, because they're big booze
They
hounds.
drink. Yeah.
Yeah, but how are you doing that? How are you deciding where to go?
We're actually kind of very like lucky because we have listener data. We are able to look at who listens to the podcast, and our podcast we've been running for 10 years now. Coming from a tech background, I can get pretty nerdy with the statistics and the data. And we reach somewhere between like 40 to 45,000 people uniquely per month. So we're averaging around 180,000 downloads a month, something like that as well. By looking at the data and kind of seeing, well, the map, it's not 100% accurate. You're not going to be able to get a lot of that through different players. Spotify is probably the best to get a lot of the demographics, but we can see a good concentration of where our listeners are coming from, whether they're coming from California or whether they're coming from Texas or anything like that. So we can utilize listener data to figure out where to go next. We also get a ton of fan mail, I guess is the best way to say it, of people like, hey, I'm in Michigan. I can't get your stuff. When can I get it? And we take stuff like that probably a little bit more seriously because Michigan is a control state. We naively thought that coming into this, we were going to disrupt the industry and be digital only. And we're not going to be on shelves. If you want to get it, you can buy it online and have it shipped to your door. Okay, that works for like 30 states. And then you have the other states that are SOL. So we've got to figure out how to get product to them. And Michigan is one of those states that we've got to figure out a way to get the product closer to them.
To that? So why wouldn't you go to the 30 states? Is it because of product availability, or is there a cost to sell? Are you losing margin? So I'm a business owner. So is there a I don't want to roll out because I'm losing margin, opposed to selling it, via your club or something like that. So deep dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to kind of just talk about, distribution and sort of what that animal looks like. So everybody kind of knows that we have to sell it to our distributor for half the price of what it's going to be on the shelf. And that's ultimately what the consumer pays. Now, part of this is actually doing it right. As a brand, when you want to distribute to a particular state, every single state operates differently. This is an artifact of prohibition. Once prohibition was repealed, it was up to the states on how they want to govern and deal with alcohol.
And may I interject a little bit here? A lot of this information comes out on Behind the Pursuit podcast, which is the sister podcast, but they go very much in depth about kind of the secondary behind the scenes stuff, which is super interesting. But go ahead, Kenny. But a lot of this is available, more in depth even than we can go here.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. Yeah, we started a second podcast because we hate free time. So it was a way for us to kind of just talk more about the ins and outs of the business. Yeah. But as a part of prohibition being repealed, every state operates independently in how they do things. Now, for us to say, we'll just take Tennessee, for example. So for us to go to Tennessee, well, I have to go find a distributor. I have to pitch a distributor and say, I would like you to go and sell our product, because I cannot go directly to a retailer and have them buy it from us to go and sell to you as a consumer. The 3-tier system is what exists. And so it means I have to sell to distributor sells to retailer sells to you. So there's a bunch of hands that change, and everybody's got to make their margin along the way. But as a part of doing that, I've got to find a distributor that wants to work with me. And maybe some distributors will say, no, we're not taking on new products right now. Or some distributors will say, all right, well, your product is going to take a lot of education and a lot of work to get it in these stores. I want 35 points of margin. Okay, well, that's another thing, right?
Wow.
Versus somebody like Sazerac or Jim Beam, they can strong arm, be like, well, our product sells itself. We're only going to give you 15 points of margin. So you've got a lot of this sort of back and forth of where money's going to go. Now, let's say we finally find a distributor. We want to work with them. Great. Let's go ahead, ship them product. And we would say, all right, it's on you to go and put this on store shelves. I wish it was that easy, because all these people are also salespeople. They're coin operated. So I have to give incentives for them to actually go out and sell it. So I have to eat more margin, say, I'll give you between $5 to $20, probably $25 a case.
Where's the spiff?
You know, yeah, and that's exactly what it is. So I gotta do that. I gotta get it on the shelf, right? So I gotta pay them to get it on the shelf. Now, once it's on the shelf, I have to go and pay to try to figure out how do I get it off the shelf. And so there's a lot of market education that has to go into there. And so we've got different mechanisms that we do go through that. Now, all that being said, every time you want to do this and do it with another state, that is a relationship that you have to build with that distributor. So I consider myself having 13 different wives, or for all these different markets, I have to go and I have to have touch points with every single one of them on like a bi-weekly basis. And it's not just to be like, hey, our product's doing this, our product's doing that. Yeah, most of the time they just want to shoot the shit. They want to feel like they are, just having a good old time.
That's a salesman's job, right?
Yeah. Like they just want to feel like they're feeling valued. And so that's part of what it is. Now I've finally gotten myself out of that. We just promoted somebody internally to kind of lead biz dev for us. But that is something that opening up new states just isn't really, it's not an easy thing to do, because you have to continually put more marketing resources into those markets to get more product education awareness out there. And then you also have to sit there and you got to travel. You got to go do liquor store signings. You got to go do sales meetings at all these different places, because it's just not one throat to choke that can take you across the nation. Every single state operates independently.
Well, how much of that did you know going in?
Oh, none. Oh, we were, like I said, we were like, oh, we'll be digital
This'll be
first.
easy. Come on, we're selling
it's like
liquor.
we'll
Come
sell
on.
online. Like this is like, we're the wave of the future.
Which is
like you gotta meet people where they're at, and a lot of people, Casey said, he purchased a bottle off of Sealbox, which is our online retailer where we do send most of our core SKUs to go and be purchased. But a lot of people just didn't realize you could buy whiskey online and have it delivered. When did this come about?
Right.
Well, even as an educated consumer, I didn't know that in Virginia I was able to do that. And so it was a surprise to me to hear that Sealbox was in DC, and I was like, holy shit, I can drive up there and I can get this. Well, no, I can actually have it shipped down here for $10, and it makes it a world of difference. Yeah.
As a marketing guy, do you guys look at possibly looking at kind of like some other distributors have done and launched their brand, going for bar owners and doing, pushing it from the bar level of, hey, we're going to have a contest. We're going to have, I'm sure you know who we're talking about, Kenny, but making it so, for one, how can a consumer say, I want a suit in my liquor store? Do they go? Naturally, we're not going to go to a distributor. We're going to go to
our liquor store owner, right?
Store, right?
Yeah.
But that's probably never going to go. So you would have to talk to the owner of the liquor store. Say, hey, I want this. So to grow your brand, and eventually you're going to get to the point where your podcast in itself, people are going to want it, because I think you're about to say, hey, I got 1 million subscribers. This is my background. You want to hear my background. And then, because I think you guys are different. I mean, none of the other, I see a lot of companies kind of getting it.
Is there a question here?
He's getting there, man.
I've heard 3 of them so far.
He's ramping up.
I'm seeing a lot of people trying to copy what you're doing, distilleries. So it will get to the point where I think people it will be sell. You can be like, hey, I got 2 million subscribers. Carry my product, and you're going to make money, and you don't have to lose margin. Do you see that happening? Is that your thinking?
So I'm not really too like the direct to retail market, maybe, I guess you could say. I'm not too concerned with that, because we still need distributors. Distributors will still play their part.
See, I disagree with that. I yell at the radio when you all talk about, oh, we need the distributor, we need the 3-tier system. I don't know if that's built into what I know you all have to follow certain
Got to play the game.
Well, they have like structure and guidelines of what information they can put out. What I can't remember the exact terminology, but I hate the middleman. I'd rather be able to go to your website and order directly from you, give you all the money, and
I agree.
right.
I'm
and
okay,
then
I'm okay
ship
with direct
it to my
consumer.
door.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
but
direct to consumer, I'm a huge fan of. I
Right.
do feel that we should have the capability, and we're kind of doing that through our club subscription model, but it actually flows all through a seal box anyway because we got to find a legal way to do it. I do feel that direct to consumer is a good way because yes, we do collect all the margin. We are able to be more like we can own the customer relationship at that point versus being 3 steps removed. I do feel that distributors still play a role because I don't know of a good way to get all our product on stores' shelves in California.
Right.
That's where they fill that role. Now, if people want to buy direct, yes, absolutely. We should be able to have that. I think that's definitely a necessity of where that has to change. I want to kind of take the questions a little bit. You kind of went in a little bit different directions there. One of them was kind of talking about sort of like where do you see the market trending based on like, was it based on like the distributor or based on the relationship, the model? Explain that one more real quick. Based like it's okay. So now I remember. So what we're trying to do is, and it's like, how do you get the product in the store? You'd mentioned it. As a consumer, you go to your liquor store owner and you say, "Hey, can you carry this? Can you find it?" And they will go and talk to whoever distributor and try to get it in, right? And that we kind of call it like a push versus a pull model. This industry is all based on push. I shove product down the distributor's throat. They shove it down the retailer's throat. Retailer tries to do whatever they can to make you buy it, right? It's just, but in a pull model, right? You are coming, you are asking, you want it. And that is the best way to be able to start building that, because that's really kind of how it all happens, because you find out about it, you bring it in, the liquor store owner's like, I'll bring it in. I hope it sells. At least you'll buy 1 bottle from me. I'll put 5 more on the shelf and see what happens. And the best thing you can do is open that bottle up right there with the liquor store owner and have him try it or her try it. And that way they become a champion of the brand. They understand why you wanted it and stuff like that too. I used to do that all the time with hard to find rums, because I went through a small rum phase and I would ask my liquor store and I was like, "Hey, can you get this?" And he goes, "I'll make a few phone calls," and brought in a couple bottles, opened it, shared it with them. And, it starts a whole symbiotic relationship. And now our kids go to the same school.
That the end user can do and say, "Hey, buy this." Or even bring a bottle. Like, say, for instance, we get one from Steelbox and say, "You got to try this. Like, try this." Especially in Florida and a lot of other states too. Not too many people are getting liquor license. Everyone's going to a different style liquor license here in Florida. So if you find a package store, hey, try this. And I encourage people to probably do that. Yeah,
it's the Costco model, right? Sampling is the best way of understanding.
Mm-hmm. So I've got kind of 2 questions to kind of round this out. One is, how much do you hate ABC states? As that I live in a communist state.
Yes, you do. And it's a police state as well.
I fucking hate ABC stores because we have no control over what comes in. And it's random that, say, I find a good tequila. I know you all talked about it a little bit, but like, finding a no additive tequila is difficult in Virginia. But how difficult is it? I know you're in Ohio. That's a ABC state, I think.
Yeah, it's a control state.
How big of an issue is it to get into like Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, right? That's an ABC state. But how bad is it to get into ABC states?
I don't know if it's bad. I think there's somewhere around like 11 or 14 different ABC states or something like that, or what they call control states, where the government actually controls everything. It's not what you would call essentially a free market, where a liquor store owner.
Yeah, I call it the worst.
You call it the worst. I mean, there's definitely pros and cons to it, because if you do get access to something, well, you're paying fair market value. You're paying suggested retail price versus, we can take, we'll talk Buffalo Trace. They're an easy one to pick on. So anytime that, you get anything Van Winkle or rare from them, well, a store is not going to sell to you suggested retail price. It's going to be 3, 4, 8, 9, 15 times its actual suggested retail price, because they own the inventory, right? They can sell it whatever they want. It's it's kind of shitty at the end of the day too, because as a consumer, I have no other way to access it except through that retailer, and he can charge whatever he wants. Like, how fair
Rolex,
is that?
Porsche.
Yeah.
Yes,
No
so-
doubt.
Yeah, so it's one of those crazy things.
That goes back to your podcast. It's like if you have some
You circumvent it, yeah.
right. Then at that point, people are asking for it, and they want it. Then the liquor salesperson can charge whatever he may want. I understand that you're still getting your margins that you're getting, and it doesn't affect you. But if it's hey, man, I got so many people asking, it's the next best thing. Maybe that helps you. And all we're trying to do is get your bottles in our states.
It'll get there eventually. I mean, we haven't gone to more states because we've been supply constrained. And to be fair, as I mentioned, having all those different wives I have to deal with, I don't want to expand unless we have to. We're going to have to a little bit next year because we're going to have more product that we have to sell and we have to get out there. But one of the things that we did start is something we call P Club, because we wanted to create, selfishly as a business owner, some sort of recurring revenue model that we know that we can guarantee on a quarterly basis, that we can make sure that we have access to our customers directly as much as possible. But we also wanted the ability to continually innovate. As another kind of negative, you would say, with distribution is that I want to create new products. Distributors do not want you to create new products. They want you to keep hitting the core and keep pushing that and making sure
tried and true.
Yeah, and you gotta continually keep going. You just keep coming out with new products, because every time that I create a new product and I sell it to the distributor, I've got to go and I got to talk to their entire sales team to educate them what this damn thing is. Then they have to go and sell it, and they've got to go and educate the retailer. By the time the retailer gets it to the shelf, it's playing a game of telephone, and it's not going to be right by the time it gets there. So this allows us to actually continue to innovate. We create a new product every single quarter, and we give access to our club members that they can buy that bottle, and they can buy any other bottle that is in our catalog, and up to 8 bottles a quarter, and we can have it shipped to them, or they can pick it up at a pickup party. It's the same exact thing as going to Napa and doing that wine club model.
Nice.
Oh yeah, sorry. Thanks for tossing me the softball there. Yeah, just go to pursuitspirits.com, and there's the nice little link at the top that says P Club.
So
what is P Club?
Yeah, so P Club is our subscription model. It is is what you join, and you get 3 big benefits, right? One is you get a flexible cart. A lot of people that do clubs, especially on the whiskey side, you kind of get what you get. You get 2 bottles this quarter, but I'm telling you what you get. I give you choice. So not only can you look at the, say, 8 bottles that we have in our catalog, and you can swap for whatever you want, but there's also going to be a brand new release every single quarter. So we're coming out with a new product every quarter. That way it keeps us constantly moving and constantly innovating. So flexibility and access, that's 1. 2, you get 10% off all merch, whether it's online or in our gift shop. And then 3, which we're actually going to be doing this week, is our P Club Quarterly, where we'll get on a live stream and all of our members can come ask questions. We'll give a little bit of background about what the new product is, how to make a cocktail with it, how to do all these different kind of things. And it's just kind of like a Q&A session. Sometimes it'll be with the founders, sometimes it can be with other folks with inside of the Pursuit team, but it's more about access, right? We kind of built this on the idea that we don't want to have exclusivity. There's no cap to the members. We want to try to give people access, because since we're not going to be in every single state, you live in Oregon, you live in California, you live in Nevada, and you want access to our distillery only offerings, this is how it happens, right? You sign up and you get access every single quarter. And not to say that you even have to buy it every single quarter. You can actually skip a release if you want. So it's all about options and making sure that, you have the ability to have the flexibility and freedom that works.
This is not Columbia House.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you get 14 records as well.
So Kenny, first, I like that you called, you just said it outright, founders. You get access to the founders. That was good, because that's you. And, calling yourself a founder is a little pretentious. But
no, a little bit.
No, he's made the commitment. He can
go.
call himself whatever he wants.
So I'm getting ready. I haven't opened it yet. You can see the seal that I hit with the heat. on my barrel pick from the beginning of June. But while I'm doing this, you've got a new bottle, which I think is awesome. I really do like the new bottles. The raised lettering, super cool. I've got a couple of vintage bottles in the closet, which I'm going to hang on to those now. I won't drink them all. But you've got a phrase on here that I think you talked about education that I've talked about on here, but you're way better at it than I am. But talk about what Pursuit Bourbon is and why it's called a triple mash bill, and kind of the transparency that you all have brought to your brand. And quite frankly, I think it's one of the coolest, most important aspects of your bourbon. But talk about that and kind of, that'll kind of close us out.
Sure, Casey. Not a problem. When we started Bourbon Pursuit on this mission of just discovery, and the more you learn about whiskey, you end up having one thing in common. You'll go and you'll find a bottle, and the first thing you do, if you've never seen it before and you don't know if it's from a heritage distillery, the first thing you do is you turn it around and you read the back label. That's what every whiskey geek does. And you look to see exactly where it was.
And you hope to God it doesn't say Lawrenceburg, Indiana.
Yeah, if it says distilled in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, you know exactly where it came from. But you start doing this sort of mystery game, like, oh, it's a 15-year Kentucky bourbon. It's probably this, or it's an 8-year Kentucky bourbon. This is what's on the market. This is probably what it is. And when you do that, you end up playing, kind of like the inspector, just trying to figure out exactly what this is. And for the most part, a lot of these NDPs, non-distilling producers, they're buying barrels. They may not be doing much to them. And then they're just putting into a bottle and they're selling you a brand. They're selling you a story. When we came out with ours, we said, not only do we not just want to be stuck with telling a story, we want the whiskey to kind of be the main star here. We want to create a flavor profile that's unique to us. So the only way that we could do that is through blending. We partner with 4 different distilleries. We partner with Bardstown Bourbon Company, another place that's about an hour south of Nashville in Columbia, Tennessee. We've got another distillery in Finger Lakes, New York called Finger Lakes Distilling. And then we also work with Sagamore Spirit based out of Baltimore, Maryland. They make some rye for us. Now, working with this, we always knew that we didn't want to actually distill our own stuff. I'm not going to go start my career over and turning knobs and figuring out 5 years later I make whiskey like shit. So let's go ahead and let's partner with world-class distilleries that know exactly what they're doing. But what we can do and put our own little special spin on it is we can bring this whiskey and we can blend it to our spec. And that whole process of our original Pursuit United concept took about a year, from finding the right liquid, finding the partners, figuring out you would call it the proprietary ratios that we do put into the blend. But by doing that, we have something that is, again, uniquely ours. Now, one of the things that we always lead with is transparency, and that's what Casey kind of said. So we started with the Pursuit United project. On the back end, on the marketing, we would always talk about who we're working with, what does it mean, and everything like that. But in the market, the packaging kind of got lost. It didn't really make a whole lot of sense because people see Pursuit United, they're going like, okay, a blend of straight bourbon whiskeys. Cool. When we were going through this repackaging exercise, which Casey held up, and I'll put it right here too. We're going through this repackaging exercise. Well, we wanted a better, newer bottle, a little bit more contemporary, aesthetically pleasing. When we were thinking about the label, we said, how do we, for lack of a better term, dumb this down? Because United doesn't mean anything to anybody, I guess, unless you live in Atlanta and you're a fan of the soccer team. Beyond that, we said, well, what really is United? And I can't tell you how many things we put up on a whiteboard, but we landed on this concept of triple mash bourbon and triple mash rye, because we blend 3 different distillates, 3 different mash bills to go and create our Pursuit United product. And by doing that, we kind of it's just there in front of you. It's very visible and apparent about what this is. And we went the extra mile of actually putting the partners and the mash bills now on the side of the label. And by doing that, it helps just kind of tell the story without you having to guess or go read a website. It's just right there on the package. And so this was about a year in the making of just having to go and restart everything from the ground up of making our whiskey a little bit more consumer friendly.
Well, I love the new packaging. I love the juice in it. I do love that you've put the actual distillers and what mash bill you've put in there. I think that the only way you learn who the Tennessee distiller is to go do the whole shebang and have your host tell you who it is.
Yeah, it's the worst kept secret in whiskey for us right now.
Right,
you can go see, like, you can just Google Columbia, Tennessee, and kind of see exactly who's around there. There's not much.
Yeah. But I appreciate this very much, Kenny. I hope that it was halfway enjoyable for you.
This was fantastic.
It was very good.
I just love being able to talk about Gran Turismo again.
Absolutely, man. Anytime you have an open invite.
And I'll tell you, the next time we come in, we will bring the fun cars. It'll probably happen in the next year or so to do something fun and new that's coming up. But anywho, thank you very much. Matt, you want to do the outro? Kenny, don't go anywhere. Don't hit leave because then you'll cancel yourself out. But go ahead, Matt.
Guys, thanks for listening. Do yourself a favor. Go check this out on YouTube, or you can download all your normal places. Apple Podcast, Spotify, yada, yada. Website, whiskeywatcheswheels.com. We upload the episodes there. And thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, comment. Peace out. Catch you guys later.
Bye-bye.